Welcome into this week's edition of the Co-Lin Coaches Show. This will be our final show before the Christmas break, and it's also going to be our final football segment. So if we're going to do it, head coach Glenn Davis joining me as always, and we're going to get to talk about a Co-Lin win in the bowl game. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Appreciate it.
Coach, as I just mentioned, you go over to Commerce, Texas, and you face off against the number 10 Bulldogs out of Navarro College, the bowl game that had the highest two ranked opponents facing off against each other. And I think from what I saw from the other three, all the stat lines, it was probably the closest game of the week as far as the bowl games are concerned. Second closest amongst all the 5 games on the national level. Just talk about how you feel about how the guys played. It was a 28-20 win, a little ugly in the first half, but real pretty second half. But your thoughts on the game overall?
Yeah, I mean, I was worried going into the game how our kids were going to play, after the state championship game, being pretty down about that. And then, I think it kind of carried over in the first half, and we didn't click and play as smooth. We, defense played fairly well. They kept us in the game, and offensively we dropped balls. We did things we hadn't done all season as far as mistakes and miscues and that kind of stuff. And it started with the opening kickoff return. We fumbled the kickoff return, give the ball right to them right off the bat, and but the second half, we talked about some things about things that we've done all year, as far as being relentless and how hard we played and playing for each other, and I think that kind of showed in the second half how we played.
Coach, obviously we always talk about impact players, and we always start with the quarterback, Devon Tott. 8 of 16, I think about 3 or 4 of those incompletions really aren't on him. He puts it on where guys can catch it, and they just uncharacteristically don't make the catches, as you said. But 8 of 16, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 7 rushes for 38 yards. I thought, again, we said it all year, it was a very efficient game from Devon. He made a lot of really good throws. Like I said, unfortunately, guys just didn't make some catches for him. But your thoughts on how Devon played and what is ultimately his final game here at Co-Lin?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Devon played really well. And like I said, some of those drops, he probably would have had another 100 yards and yards of catches had we not dropped some of those balls. Some of them were just wide open plays, and just didn't finish them. But Devon ran the ball well. He threw the ball well. He played a really good game. As today we were telling the college coach about him. His stats are not going to jump out there at you, but he's a winner, and he's tough as nails, and he gives you're going to get everything out of him every ball game.
Your next guy, I think, that had a really big impact. He's had an impact every game all year, it feels like. Johnny Daniels. Not the stat line you're used to seeing out of him. I think there were 2 or 3 times where he thought he was going to bust it loose, and they were able to fill the gap. But 15 rushes, 57 yards, 1 touchdown. That touchdown really came at a perfect time for you when you needed one to really seal it away. He got it for you. But, again, just another great game for Johnny to really kind of end his career on here at Co-Lin.
He did. He was steady. I mean, like I said, it wasn't the game that we've been seeing out of him the last 4 or 5 weeks, but it was a good ball game. He made runs, big runs for us when we needed them.
And I think as far as receivers go, you got to look at Richard Mays Jr., 3 receptions, 98 yards, and a touchdown. He had one of those unfortunate drops we were talking about. Would have had 2 touchdowns and probably close to over 150 yards if he'd have hauled that one in. But he did haul one in later, and I thought he was a big factor in the game. He kind of drew a lot of attention away so other guys could get open.
He really did. Richard has gotten better and better the last 4 or 5 weeks after he's coming back from his leg injury, and this past week was probably the best week of practice of seeing him do things that we were expecting him to do all year, and it was, like I say, it was mighty big having him back, and some of it was off of we were cracking the safety early in the game with him, and then one of those big plays where we faked the crack and ran by the safety on his touchdown catch, and but he played really well for us, and like I say, it was good to see him be able to have some success out there.
And your defense had another big game again, another game where they just kind of flew all over the place. Had 12 tackles for a loss, 6 sacks, 4 quarterback hurries, 5 pass breaks, and 2 interceptions. Just another game where you really just saw Coach Gordon and that unit just kind of light up everything all over the place.
Oh, they played really well, but there's probably another 6 or 7 sacks that we left on the field that we sometimes 2 or 3 guys missed him, and but and that some of that was because they were on the field a lot and they'd gotten tired, and in the first half, and I think there was some point in the game where we'd had the ball like 18 minutes offensively, and they'd been out there almost 30 minutes, and But that was kind of the way Navarro's offense was. It's air raid where they're throwing the ball all over the field, empty, 4 receivers to one side. And, I thought they did a pretty good job defensively of, being in the right places. There at the end we made a mistake or two, but I thought for the most part played a really good game.
I think if anybody goes back and watches the video, you see the Navarro quarterback a little squirrely. He's able to get away from a lot of things where we hadn't seen a lot of quarterbacks who could do that. So to have 12 tackles and 6 sacks, knowing you left more on the field, is still a great day. One guy stands out in particular to me. It's a guy we're going to have back next year, I believe. And I think if people see the tape, they're going to go, okay, this guy's going to be an issue for anybody. Even if he's not here going forward, I think if he plays to the next level, he's going to be an issue. Like Kendrick James. Champ had 9 tackles, had 4 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. And he was just – it felt like every time I looked up, he was just making a tackle or he was in on a tackle or in on a play. Yeah. And I thought he just had a great game.
Yeah, Champ will definitely be back. We're expecting great things out of him, and he's gotten better and better, and this year's been big for him, maturing and everything. He's going to be a tremendous football player, like you said.
And then another one that stood out, Colin McGowan, and I think what is ultimately his final game, 7 tackles, a tackle for loss, a guy who last year, we saw him play a little bit more of like a fill-in role, those kind of things. This year he's really stepped up and really answered the bell, and we saw that big time in the bowl game.
Yeah, I mean, Colin's just been steady. He's not your biggest guy. He's not the, he's runs well, not the fastest, but he gets people lined up, and he plays with great effort, and he's a great character guy.
And then obviously you can't go without talking about the defensive MVP of the game, a guy who only got 1 year here. Wish we had 2 with him, but his 1 year he made the best of it. That's Jerron Manning. He was the defensive MVP. Had just 3 tackles, but also had a pass breakup and an interception that ended up setting up what was ultimately, I think, the game-sealing touchdown. Gave you a big lead at that point. But Jerron, again, not the most tackles he ever had in a game, but I think he played a very solid game.
No doubt. Jerron made a big hit. I mean, same thing. He getting guys lined up and making tackles, not missing tackles. Those things. It was going to be a game where it was going to be played in space a lot, and our secondary kind of had to be on an island sometimes to try to buy a little time for the front to get pressure, and I thought those guys as a whole did well, and Jerron was a big key to that too.
We'll jump into the scoring summary. As you mentioned earlier, we fumbled the opening kickoff, and you give the ball back to them, and I think it was on about the 40-yard line, 29 yards, somewhere in there. Ultimately results in a 33-yard field goal. Navarro has the lead. It's 12:09 left in the first. And I think the guys responded greatly. You go down, you march on the field, you line up for your own field goal, and Brandon Gillum misses it just right of the uprights. So you're still down 3-0. Defense is answering the bell the whole time. In the second quarter, you get a interception in the third play of that quarter. Chris Burnett just steps in front of a pass as the receiver's falling down. It really, grabs all the momentum, but the offense still really can't get it going. So you're down 3-0. It's still early in the second quarter, and it still doesn't feel like the guys are panicking at that point.
No, I mean we hadn't played well, and we knew we were going to be okay. It's just we just got to start making plays and start playing like we're capable of playing, and we, like I say, it's just 3-0, 7-3. It wasn't bad. So. And
then obviously that's when the offense started making plays. Devon hit Richard Mays on that 66-yard pass over the top. I think, as you said, cracked the safety, and he just ran over the top. 4-play, 80-yard drive. You're now up 7-3 with 9:01 left, and you hold that lead for a long time. It really kind of felt like you were just going to be able to kind of squeeze it out and just go into the locker room 7-3. What's the message to the guys once you get that lead and you're trying all you can to hold on to it?
Well, I mean, the big thing is just keep playing. Let's add to it, and like I say, we mentioned that fumble opening kickoff, and getting a field goal was a win. I mean, that was defense goes out there and holds them and answers the. We always talk about answering plays, answering drives, and I thought they did a great job there. And then being up 7-3, the big thing was just to keep stacking plays on top of plays, and we kind of didn't on that, and. But it was a game where we struggled just to, we weren't kind of get out of our own way sometimes.
All right, and then you saw Navarro really just go on a drive that, I watching the game, I was like, this drive's really long. I didn't realize how long it was until we saw the box score. It a 16-play drive. that took 8.5 minutes off the clock. That's a long time for a defense to be on the field. A long time for an offense to be on the field, especially when you're air raid and those kind of things. But it results in a 42-yard field goal. It's 7-6 with 31 seconds left. You got 31 seconds. You think, okay, maybe we can drive the ball down, maybe kick a field goal of our own, maybe even break another one over the top and score. Try it on the next possession. Unfortunately, Devon's picked off on, I believe, the 41-yard line, which ultimately led to a 36-yard touchdown pass. Their quarterback just kind of got even with broke away from a sack and was able to throw one to the end zone and threw it to about a 6'6" receiver who jumped up one-handed. You're down 13-7 at halftime, and you know you probably should be up at least 7-6, probably more.
Yeah.
But what's the message to the guys at halftime, knowing, hey, we got a battle on our hands. If we want to get to where we want to get to, we're gonna have to show up.
Yeah. Well, the big thing is that the interception. I take credit for that because I said let's try to see if we can't get out and get a field goal. Had 2 timeouts, and our defense, like you said, had been out there for 8 minutes, and knowing that they're going to have to be right back out there after halftime and start the third quarter. Should have taken a knee and gotten out, and we'd still been up 7-6, and just kind of got greedy and felt like we could do something because they really hadn't stopped us all game. It was more of us stopping ourselves with drop passes and that kind of stuff. And but at halftime, we talked about. I think some of the kids felt like we were fussing at them, a good bit, and I said, yeah, I mean, we're fussing at you because we're not playing like we're capable, and it's one of those situations where you challenge them is the things that we had kind of became known for we weren't playing like, and it was pulling for each other, playing for each other, being relentless, and being as physical as we possibly can be, and just kept pointing all those things out to them, and we're letting people be right about they've got an 85-man roster and we've got a 60-man roster, and they only can play 11 guys at a time. So it doesn't matter who the 11 are; they can only play 11. So we just talked about all those things, and I think the kids kind of woke up, and I think it pretty much showed the second half. We scored 21 in the second half, and really had it in our hands until we gave up the busted coverage there at the end.
And you talk about coming out in the third quarter. Navarro again, another long drive resulted in a 51-yard field goal attempt. Was not good. So you get the ball on your own 39-yard line, and you go right down the field, march down the field. It's a 6-play, 39-yard line. I meant 34-yard line, 66-yard drive. Ended in Devon Tott finding Jalen Smith, I believe, on what looked like maybe a little post route, and Jalen just ran away from everybody. And that gives you the lead after the successful PAT by Gillum, 14-13, and you never gave it back at that point. It really kind of felt like once we got the lead, I don't think Navarro thought that we would. That we would get it back, or that it felt like Navarro thought they were still going to be in it, and we just said no, it's ours.
Yeah, I think we were a lot more physical, and like I say, our kids made their mind up, and we play better from behind. I don't know what it is. We've done that all year, and we've even in the Jones game, we never felt like we were out of it, and it's kind of the same way here. Felt like we had a chance, and like I say, they made their mind up that they were going to get it done, and they went out there and did it.
Defense answers the bell. On the next possession, you force a 3-and-out. Your offense scores again on the second straight possession. This time, Trey Minor from 12 yards out ended a 9-play, 74-yard drive. That's 21-13 with 1:11 remaining, and you really feel like at that point you're just kind of pulling away, and you're just, I don't want to say the game is in hand, but it really felt like that was kind of ultimately what really sealed it for you. Despite that, Navarro keeps fighting. They drive all the way down. They go for a field goal. And it's 26-yard field goal, and you're thinking, oh, they're going to be real close. It's going to be 21-16, and we're still going to have to keep battling. But it hits the left upright. Right. I thought when it hit the left upright, I was like, oh, it's going to find its way. It's going to find its way to fall in, but it didn't. It fell out, was no good. So you're still up 21-13 at that point. Just talk about the feeling at that point, knowing that it's still just an 8-point game. Like, we still can't just take our foot off the gas. We still got to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it was you never want to let off the gas, and we were still want to try to score more. So that was obviously trying to get to that point where it's a 2-score game minimum, and trying to get more if we can. And the biggest thing is we talked about it being our Mississippi Junior College League against the Texas Junior College League. So that was another thing we talked about, is that you're trying to set a precedent. There's not been many Mississippi teams win this bowl game, and we talked about that and have some, the intangible things that our team had played with all the time. Those are things that we kept talking about.
I think if you go and look at the history, like you just said, not a lot of teams have won this one. I think we're just the third or fourth Mississippi team that's won it in the history of the bowl. It's been around for about 20 years now. Your offense comes out, goes 3 and out, but your defense comes up with a huge stop at this point. Not really stop, but this is the second turnover. You got a little pressure on the quarterback. Jerron really kind of, I thought the receiver caught it at first, and Jerron really just kind of ripped it away. So it's an interception there, and you get the ball on your own 21-yard line, and that just felt like it was a huge momentum swing at that point.
It was. I mean, it was big because, like I say, they were threatening again, and he made a great play on the ball and, took it right out of the receiver's hands, and they were both going to the ground, and he just snatched it away from him. It was a great play. That
resulted in a 4-yard touchdown rush from Johnny Daniels. You're up 28-13 with 5:19 left, and then Navarro goes down the next drive, scores on that one. That's the one you said was busted coverage at the end. They were able to get a touchdown. It's 28-20. They line up, and it's, I believe, around a minute left in the game at that point. They line up for an onside kick. It goes into the hands of Jalen, and Jalen takes off, and I thought he was going to score. I was up in the press box going, "Go, Jalen, go, score!" get us a 2-touchdown lead. But he didn't. He stepped out there, but then you were able to run out the clock and really just seal it, and you end up with a 28-20 win.
Yeah, it was big. That was great. Really good play by the guys up front on the onside kick team. Did a great job protecting him. I mean, there was nobody around him when he fielded the ball, and Coach Thompson has done a great job with our kickoff return and our hands team. And first time we've had to recover an onside kick when everybody did exactly what they were supposed to, and it was a big play.
So you finish the season, Heart of Texas Bowl champs. Here's the trophy right here. You're 10-2. As I asked you during the post-game press conference, you've hit the 9-win mark 4 times. First time ever in your coaching career here at Co-Lin, you've hit 10, and only the second time in program history that the football team has had 10 wins in a season. Just tell me your thoughts on that. I know it's an incredible mark, and I know it reflects in the work that you put in all year.
Well, I mean, the kids deserve most of the credit, and the coaches, and they've done a great job getting their kids ready to play, and our kids have done a great job buying into what the coaches have talked about, and it's been a great group to coach, and haven't had many problems, many headaches, and things as a coach has to deal with sometimes, and but as a group of kids that are competitors and have a lot of intangible things to them, a lot of great leaders on the football team that didn't mind calling guys out when they're not doing things or not playing the way they're capable of playing, not practicing hard. That this group did it, and so what made them so special is that, and like I say, they're 1 win away from playing for a national championship. So, because I think East Mississippi's won that game, and I feel like we would have had a good chance to match up against Hutch just like they did, and even as shorthanded as we were from. I guess even from the first game of the season, losing players for season-ending injuries, and the guys being humble and not caring about whose ego, this or that, and the next guy stepping up. It was mighty big, and it was a fun group to coach because of all those things.
I think when it's all said and done, this will be a team that really will be defined by 2 words, and I've told a lot of people this all year: grit and determination. That's 2 things they've shown all year, and the proof is in the pudding. Again, you 10-2 overall record. 19 spots on the all-conference list, 8 by 18 players, because Jalen Smith got 2 spots there. We just announced earlier today you had 4 All-Region 23 players, that being Johnny Daniels, Billy Pullen, Navarian Benson, and Jalen Smith. You had the South Offensive Player of the Year in Johnny Daniels, South Defensive Player of the Year in Billy Pullen. You got South Coach of the Year. When people go and look up this team, they're really gonna know how special it was, because not only do the results say so, you've got all these accolades that say so as well too.
That's
so,
right.
Congrats to you and all the guys on a great season. It's been incredible. I tell people all the time, if you'd have told me in August that we'd be playing in December, I don't know that I would have necessarily believed it. I don't know if a lot of people around here would have believed it, but 100% we'll take it every time, because it's just been a fun season. It's been fun to cover these guys. Thoroughly enjoyed being able to talk all season about it. And again, Coach, thanks for joining me every week as you have.
I appreciate it. I mean, going into this, you mentioned about where we thought we would be. We felt like we had a really good chance because of the group of guys that we had here for spring football. And, like I say, that we added to the pieces of the puzzle with different players and that kind of stuff, and then guys really being unselfish and playing positions that they might not normally have played, just trusted coaches and that kind of stuff. And anytime you have that, you give yourself a chance.
And it builds a lot of excitement for next year.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are already excited about what the Wolves are going to do in 2024, myself included. That'll wrap up our final football segment of the year, again, of our final show before the Christmas break. Stick with us through the break. Coming up, we'll talk to head women's basketball coach Dr. Britta Stephens about the Lady Wolves games from the previous weeks and the one they have coming up. I'm Kevin Kaiser, Sports Information Coordinator here at Co-Lin. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you after the break. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. And joining me now is our head women's basketball coach, Dr. Britta Stephens. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
And Coach, obviously, another week where you were 2-0. You won both your games this past week. You started off with a big win on the road, went over to Baton Rouge and beat them 73-60. Just talk about how you felt about how the team played.
You know, I thought that was a really good win for us coming back off the Thanksgiving break. So we had played the Monday, Tuesday, and Southwest tournament, and then we took off about 7 or 8 days. You know, we came back in practice, but practice is not the same as playing. So I knew we were going to be leg weary. I knew we were going to be a little bit tired, but I was surprised. We came back and our practices were really good. We were in shape. We had worked hard over the break, and that was really encouraging to me. And so we went down there again, going on the road. I knew it was going to be hard. Baton Rouge had not won a game, so I also knew it was going to be hard because they were going to be hungry for a win. But I thought we played really well. You know, we came out of the gate. We were a little bit slow. You know, we didn't score great coming out of the gate. And then in that third quarter, we kind of turned it on, and that's when we kind of started to pull away and play really well.
You look at the box score, you led 16-11 after the first, 32-28 at half. Third quarter, 49-44, and then you scored, saved your best point total for the last, scored 24 points in the fourth to really kind of pull away. You know, some of the players I think that really stand out, Ashanti Fleming. You know, we were talking about just before we started all this, she led all scores with 19 points and had 7 rebounds. It really felt like she was kind of the leader on the floor for you that game.
Yeah, when I looked at the box score, I didn't even realize she had scored because she is such just a quiet player, and she assumes her role and she does her job, and sometimes you don't even realize she scored. And then I looked at it and she scored 19. I knew she had played well. I knew she had put her teammates in spots to score. One pass that she made to Jamia Smith, it was an unbelievable assist. It was on a rope, and I was like, man, what a pass. And so I didn't realize how well she had played until I started looking at the stat line. She's consistent. We know what we're going to get from her every night. I didn't think, moving forward, she had as good of a game against Southern Shreveport last Friday. I thought she missed some layups and some easy shots that she should have made, but she still had a good game. You know, she was still one of our leading scorers. So we need her to be good. You know, we need her to consistently be our leading scorer for us to be successful.
I think another important stat for her is she had 4 steals. I think she led the team in that category as well, too. So anytime that you've got a guard player who's able to stop the opposing team's momentum and turn that into some offensive momentum for you, that's a huge addition as well.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of what helped us win this game. We played a lot of different defenses and a lot of changing and a lot of zone, and we got several steals that led to easy baskets, and that's what made us able to pull ahead and pull away from them late in the game.
You also had Jamia Smith, who had 14 points, led the team in rebounds with 8, and you had Mila Harbor, who had 9 points. Again, a name that we haven't called out a lot, but, you know, she's been doing a lot of good things on the floor that necessarily haven't going on to the scoring wise, but this felt like a game where she really was able to take her spots and take advantage of them.
Yeah, Mila Harbor is an extremely talented player, and she's not a name we've called a lot. She's a kid who Coach and I toy with every game. Do we start her? Do we bring her on the bench? And we kind of like bringing her off the bench because she is an offensive threat coming off the bench. She's a big guard who can guard. She can get steals. She does a lot of things. We play her at the top of our press, and that's really helpful for us because those big, long arms are hard for people to pass around. So I was glad she had a good game. Jamia Smith is, again, consistent. I know what I'm going to get from her every single night. She's going to guard. She's going to rebound. 14 points is just icing on the cake. And sometimes I'll get frustrated with them because, like, y'all got to get Jay the ball. She can score, and she's got such good post moves and stuff. And sometimes they don't get her the ball enough to satisfy me. And that night they did. We played a lot of inside out. And I told them that's one of the keys for when we play Holmes is we've got to play inside out. We've got to get the ball to our bigs and then play out.
And then you move forward. You played Southern Shreveport at home this past Friday. You beat them 78-60. 67, and I think one of the big things that will stand out is that you won every quarter. You outscored them. You led wire to wire, and that's something that you don't always see in women's basketball. Sometimes you'll see like in the Baton Rouge game where you win 3 out of 4 quarters or something like that. But this one, you led wire to wire. Talk about how the girls played and how you feel about that game.
Well, I did not know that we led wire to wire. I did not feel like we led wire to wire. The first quarter and the second quarter, it was like pulling teeth to get us to play. We didn't have a lot of energy. 12 o'clock game, not many people there, and I told them from the jump, I said, y'all, it's going to be us and them and 4 or 5 fans, and we did. We ended up having a really nice crowd for a 12 o'clock game, but it was like our energy wasn't great to start the game. We struggled to score. We had so many open layups that we just missed, and that's been a consistent thing for us. We're missing easy shots. We've got to get to the point where we're not missing those easy baskets and those easy shots. But overall, I thought we played really well. Again, I think our defense is kind of what helped us be able to lead every quarter because we did get a lot of steals. I didn't think we did a great job on the boards in the first half. I thought we did a much better job of that in the second half. One interesting stat that I thought and I was really proud of, I think everybody on our bench scored. Almost everybody on our bench scored, and that's a good day when you can have everybody on your team be able to play and everybody on your team be able to score. That's success, and it's success for our whole team. And we needed a game like that because honestly, we've played just about every game has been close, and some of our freshmen who don't get a lot of minutes have not been getting very many minutes at all. So they were able to get some substantial minutes in this game, and that was encouraging to me.
And I think even the ones who didn't score still factored into the game through rebounds, steals, assists, those kind of things. So you're really seeing a lot of your players who, even if they're not having a great night scoring, they're finding ways to affect the game in other ways, which I think is a great thing that you want to see as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. People, how many points did you score? Sometimes it's not how many points. How many defensive stops did you get? How many rebounds did you get? How many steals? How many assists? Those things all matter. One kid that we haven't talked about who played really well in this game was Alex Washington. She's a freshman who had gotten almost no minutes. I mean, I'll be honest, because I'm still trying to, Coach and I are still trying to figure out our rotation and stuff, and we got in a little bit of foul trouble, and her number got called, and she came in immediately. She scored 4 quick points. She got some stops. We started her in the second half, and again, she came in and scored. She was a huge spark for us, and I'm excited to see how that translates into the next game if she can continue to do that, because that's a spot in the post, especially when we get in foul trouble. We need help, and we need those freshmen to step up, and I was really pleased with how she stepped up.
Finished with 10 points on the game. Those are huge points coming off the bench anytime. Even in a game like this, that 10 points is huge.
Yeah.
If you go and look at the box score, you led 14-13 after the first quarter. We talked about winning every quarter. A couple of them were only 1-point quarters, but hey, you still win those. So 14-13 after the first, 35-33 at half, and then you outscored Southern Shreveport 45-34 in the second half to really pull away. Ashanti Fleming again led the team in scoring. She had 16 points and 8 rebounds. I know you said you felt like she didn't play as well as she did the week, earlier in the week, but still led the team in scoring.
Yeah, again, and I'm not I like numbers. I like the numbers more when we get beat than when we win, because when we get beat, I want to see what did we do poorly and stuff. And I didn't know that I didn't think she had a great game, but 16 and 8, that's a pretty strong stat line. She's a really good player, and she's someone I've had a couple college coaches call me this week and go, Coach, who do you have on your team? Do you have anybody that's good enough to help me? She's an under the radar player that people need to start looking at because she is so unselfish. She does whatever it takes for us to win. Whether it's rebounds, whatever it is, she does it, and that's something as a 4-year coach I would definitely want on my team.
And you had 2 others who we haven't talked about them necessarily scoring wise. We've talked about how they've affected games in other ways, but Sequoia Bolden and Kirsten Haynes both had 12 points. That's huge when you get double-digit points from those two, especially with Sequoia coming off the bench most of the time and Kirsten being your starting, what you would say your 2 guard, and a lot of times she has 7 assists and 6 rebounds, those kind of things, and maybe 6 points. But anytime you get 12 points from 2 of your guards, that feels huge.
Yeah, anytime that's 4 players that we've talked about already scoring in double figures. Anytime we can have 4 or 5 or 6 players scoring in double figures, we're going to be successful. Sequoia Bolden has been our come off the bench defensive stopper. She's a kid that sometimes I ask her to play the 4, sometimes I ask her to play the 3, sometimes I ask her to do all kinds of stuff, and she embraces every role that I ask her to do. So I'm glad that she, scoring has not really been what she's been made of, and so that's encouraging that it was her night to score and have a good game. Same thing with Kirsten. Handling the ball and running our team has been her role. Scoring has not necessarily been her role. And again, she was able to fill that on Friday, which helped us be successful.
And so your next game, it's your last one before the Christmas break. It's everybody's last chance to see the Lady Wolves before about a month off. Probably not what you want to do, take a month off
really.
Here, but you get to play a few when we come back and those kind of things. But your next game, you get to play Holmes. You're playing them here. It's Monday night at, I believe, 5:30 is when tip-off will be. What do you know about the Lady Bulldogs? What are they going to bring when they come over here to Mullen Gym? What's that game going to look like for us?
Very similar team to us. A lot of freshmen, a lot of inexperience. They're kind of very much like us, been up and down. I feel like we've been up and down. I feel like we've been more up than down, but we've had some nights and some quarters where we just haven't played very well. So a lot of freshmen, a lot of inexperience on their roster. They've got an undersized post kid, Dariana White, who is incredibly talented, who's going to cause matchup problems for us because our posts are not as mobile and she's more of a guard-like post. So we'll have to do some things. Holmes is a team that always shoots it well. They always have a lot of shooters. So we'll have to mix defenses and do some different things to contain White and contain their shooters. And, Coach and I, we've watched film and we've practiced. And if we will play as hard as we played, like I thought we played really well at Baton Rouge. I'm not sure that may not have been our best game of the season. We were very unselfish. We didn't turn the ball over. Kayla Howard's looking at me and she's going, Coach, you're not doing what I want him to do, because she's growing and she's starting to think like I think, and she's starting to go, this is what Coach wants. And that's the growth from the first game until now is unbelievable. And we've still got a lot of growth. We've still got a long way to go, but we've grown so much, and I can see that, and I can see their wheels starting to turn, and they're like, no, this is what Coach wants, and that's what she wants. And those are the things that are going to make us successful. So if we can play like that against Holmes, I think we're going to be okay. Defensively, they're going to mix it and play some zone and play some man. We hope they play us man, because we prefer people to play us man most of the time. We score better going downhill. But again, Baton Rouge played us man all night, and we shared the ball, and we played inside out, and we were very successful. So I think we can do that against Holmes as well.
And Coach, before we go, let's kind of just talk about, wrap up a little bit of the first half of the pre-conference, preseason kind of play. I know we talked about going into it. You were a little nervous, didn't know what everything was going to look like, but you're sitting at 6 wins and just 2 losses in your first 8 games. And I think if I'd have told you, hey, after 8 games you're going to be 6-2, you'd absolutely take it, because you were worried. The girls were still having to adjust to you. You were having to figure things out. But overall, what are your thoughts about how the first half of the season is really going for you?
If you would have told me at this point we would be 6-2, I would have said, "Where's the contract? Let me sign it right now." Because the first 2 or 3 weeks of practice, I'd walk in the office and go, "Alexis, Coach Holt, I don't know if we're going to win any games," because we were young and we were inexperienced. And so growth-wise, I'm over the moon excited. Even the games that the Kilgore game that we lost the first game of the season, that's a really good team. I take that loss and I say we got better that night. The LSU Eunice game, I'd like to have that one back. We played as bad as we could play that day. They had a really good day. We shouldn't have lost that game, so I'd like to have that one back. But 6-2, records are records. As long as we continue to get better and grow and learn from every game, that's what I'm excited about. And if we will continue to grow and mature like we're maturing, we're going to be fine in conference play. And you and I talked earlier, what's success for this team? Success for this team is growing. But now that expectation has changed. I told him, I said, coming back from the Thanksgiving break before Christmas, I wanted to go 2-1. And so we go to Baton Rouge and we win. And I told him, I said, that's not the expectation anymore. Now the expectation is to go 3-0. Because I've seen the growth, there's no reason for you not to go 3-0. So just growth, continual growth is kind of what I'm expecting. And I'm over the moon happy with how we're playing.
All right, well, lots of positives here for the Lady Wolves as they enter the final game before the Christmas break. Again, that'll be in Mullen Gym on Monday, December 4th at 5:30 p.m. Your last chance to catch the Lady Wolves before January. They'll come back and we'll play 3 games before we start conference play as well. We'll have all those details for you and have all the details for all the games on all of our social media as well, too. If you can't make it, we are streaming the game live tonight. First basketball stream of the year now that football season has wrapped up, and we're done with that as well, too. So thanks for tuning in. Coach, again, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Stick with us through the break. Joining me next will be head men's basketball coach David Sanders. We'll talk about the Wolves' wins last week and their final 3 matches before the Christmas break coming up this week. Welcome back in. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. And joining me now is our men's head basketball coach, David Sanders. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And Coach, again, had another great week for the Wolves. Went 2-0 on the week, and you started off with arguably the biggest win in your tenure here might be the biggest win in program history. You beat Baton Rouge Post Grad Academy 122-57. Again, I know that's the most points we scored in the 3 years that you've been here, 3 years that I've been here. Might be the most points in program history, but again, largest margin of victory as well too. So just talk about how you felt like the guys played in that one. I know it was a game that it's a little unusual to play a team like that, but just your thoughts on how the guys played.
Well, it's the first time we ever played a post grad, and it was kind of just one of those games that we picked up. We had some issues with the BRCC game, so we had to pick up a game. So, and I thought the guys really got it going offensively early. Devin had it going. I think he had 29 at the half, and we really didn't play him a whole lot second half, but it was good for us. We got some confidence for some guys that don't normally play, and we were able to get them out there. Corey Brown played well, and Fred Gray got some minutes. So we had a chance to get some guys that we've been trying to get going some minutes, and I thought they played really well.
So you led 60-26 at half, and then you outscored Baton Rouge Post Grad 62-31 in the second half. And as you mentioned, Devin Carter had 29 points. All of them came in the first half. I think he only played, like you said, a couple of minutes in the second half, so really didn't have an opportunity to add much to it. But he led all scorers with 29 points, also led the team in steals with 4. And, it really feels like we talked the week before how you're hoping he'd start busting out of that shooting slump, and it really felt like in that game he's very effective with his shooting. Mm-hmm. He hit 3 straight threes at one point, really kind of opened up the margin, and even hit a buzzer-beating 3 there at the end of the first half to really kind of capitalize and really put an exclamation point on the end of that first half. Just talk about how he's played so far. Well,
Devin struggled early in the first 5-6 games with his shooting. And I've just been telling him to keep at it. He's a really good shooter. He's kind of a streaky shooter. He's a guy that can hit 5-6 in a row. And, we definitely need him to get going. So he's been doing that these last 2 games, played really well. And he's taking really good shots for us. And he's a guy we got to get going because he's the one kind of be the catalyst for us on offense.
And you also got 2 big games from 2 of your big post players. You had Dakota Hilliard, who had 17 points, and Emmanuel James, another double-double, 15 points and 13 rebounds. Just talk about the play of those 2 post guys and how big they've been for you. I know Dakota has gotten starts, has come off the bench for you, but it just seems like he's always providing you great minutes when he's on the court.
Yeah, Dakota's a typical freshman, man. He's really talented. He's kind of up and down with his work ethic, kind of up and down with his play. So, we're trying to get him to be more consistent, but I feel like he's one of those guys that can be an all-league guy once he figures it out. He can play out on the perimeter. He can guard, switch out and guard guards, and he rebounds well, and he's a great shooter. So, he gets it going, and E-Man is just a rock down there. He rebounds the ball well, and he's been a little banged up for us, but I think he's a guy we can count on every night for a double-double. So, we're looking forward to him continuing playing well.
And you also had Yvonne Johnson, who had 11 points. And you also, a name we haven't talked a lot about, Antonio Otis. Chaz had 11 points as well, too, came off the bench with those 11. I think he scored the final 6 of the last game, and I think like 8 of the last 13 he scored. It was either him or Fred Gray Jr. scoring. They scored combined for the last 13 points of the game. But talk about the play of both of them. I think it was good to be able to see guys like Chaz and Fred Gray and Corey Brown. Everybody who played scored in this game, and that feels huge going forward.
Yeah, definitely, man. Those are some guys that we know are really talented. Fred averaged 27 a game in high school last year, and Chaz was one of those guys that was a dual sport player. He was a really good football player as well. There was some injuries, and he's kind of getting back now, but he's had some really good practice for us. So it was good to see him get going. We're trying to get him in the mix a little bit more to be that 2-guard behind Devin. And so he played really well. I thought those guys stepped up, and they took advantage of the opportunity and earned themselves some more minutes.
And so you go from that, and then you host Southern Shreveport this past Friday, and you beat them 96-86, a team that you haven't seen this year. But and it seemed like you kind of struggled out the gate maybe a little bit, but you were able to really clean things up. Saw some guys who had played well the last couple of games, maybe struggled a little bit, didn't score like you thought they would. But talk about how you felt how the guys played this past Friday.
I thought it was a solid game for us. Like I said, we had a rough first half. Like I said, Emmanuel's been dealing with back issues, and he hurt his wrist in practice, so he kind of struggled to hold the ball, catch the ball. He lost a couple of balls there and there that he normally secure, and struggled with his shots. So, we dealt with that a little bit. But I thought Kason Saunders came in and gave us some good minutes, and Dakota played pretty well. So, but the guys, they picked it up down the stretch, and I kind of rest them at the end, and Shreveport's able to make it a little bit closer, with our reserves in there. But I thought one thing I've learned in this business, man, you'll take a win any way you can get it. So, we want to play a little bit better defense, try to hold teams under 75. But at the same time, if we got to outscore them, let's outscore them. I just want to get the win.
A win's a win. Doesn't matter if it's by 10 or 67. It's still a win. You saw in this one, you led 49-38 at halftime. Southern Shreveport outscored you in the second half, just by 1 point, 48-47. That's where you get the 10-point win from. Devin, another huge game from him. He set a new career high with 33 points. We talked about him again. It just seems like, again, he's really starting to find his stride. He's being very efficient. I think in the game against Southern Shreveport, I think he was 6 for 6 from the free throw line. It really feels like he's starting to find his stride when he really struggled earlier in the year.
Yeah, Devin's he's a great free throw shooter. I think he's close to 90 on the year, and anytime we can get him to the line, we love that opportunity because he's going to knock them down. He's really became more efficient with his three ball, and what I like, he's starting to kind of pick it up inside the three and get us some baskets in there too as well. And I want to see him be a little bit better facilitator because I really think he's a point guard on the next level. But he's a kid that's definitely a Division I player, and I feel like he's going to be a steal for one of these programs.
You also had Cortarius Scott, who had 17 points. And Court's a guy, I've been very impressed with him. Every time I talk to him, he gets upset that he doesn't get double-digit assists.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like he's a get the ball to my other guys, and maybe I'll score some. So anytime you get 17 out of a guy like that, you got to feel really good about how he played throughout the whole game.
Yeah, we got to push him to score a little bit more. With Will Grayson coming back now as another point guard, I feel like, we can get more points out of Cole. He's a really good scorer, but he's such an unselfish player. He wants to make sure he gets his guys involved. I know he's Devin's best friend because he looks for him. He finds them in his open spots, and he definitely wants to. His goal is to be one of the nation's leaders in assists. And so, I'm telling those guys, look, I got to step up and knock it down. He's getting you good looks. So, he's very upset when he doesn't get those assists. So, I think it's a good thing for him to strive for that stat. Most guys want to score points. He wants to be one of the assist leaders. So, it's a good look for us. But at the same time, we definitely need him to put it in the hole.
Yeah, you see some of the passes he makes, and you just go, the court vision's amazing because you're sitting there watching, you're going, I didn't even see that guy there, and somehow Court saw it, and he makes some great passes to his teammates and really sets them up well. You also had E-Man with a fourth straight double-double, 14 points and 10 rebounds. Not what we're used to seeing from him, but again, having to overcome a little bit of being a little banged up, but that's understandable, but still another double-double. Is a great thing for him. You also had Yvonne with 12 points and 7 rebounds. Another game where Yvonne flirts with a double-double. It seems like we say every week he's got 1 out of 2 or maybe both games where he's flirting with double-double. So it seems like those two, again, just gave you solid minutes.
Yeah, Yvonne's one of those guys. He's always right there. He had a really good game against Chipola when we played them in Florida, and he's one of those guys that can do it all, man. He's Swiss Army knife. He can score. He's a great rebounder for us, and he kind of held up the slack when E-Man was a little injured. So, he's a guy that we really need to get great minutes out of coming off the D1 levels as D1 transfer. He has that kind of knowledge and skill that, that he can pass on to those younger guys, and he's been doing a great job.
I think everybody on the roster got to play in this one a little bit, even if it was only a couple of minutes here and there. Anytime you get to do that, you always feel good as well, too. But next up, you got 3 games this week before you go on about the month-long Christmas break. So we'll start. You got a 1 at home, final home game for the Wolves. Last chance to catch them at Mullen Gym before the break. You've got Holmes on Monday, December 4th at Mullen Gym at 7:30 tip. You'll follow the girls. It'll be another double dip. We'll have it on stream, first basketball stream of the year as well, too. But what do you know about the Bulldogs? What are they going to bring in coming into the game?
Well, they're really tough. They got a kid, Cameron Wallace, that's a double-double machine. He's shooting, I think, 70% from the field, and he's playing really well for them, so we got to definitely watch them. They got some really good guard play. They got a kid in Decorah Porter who I thought was an all-league player last year coming back, and, they're a veteran team. Coach Flanagan is a guy that's been to the regional finals. He's been to the nationals and, several times, and he knows how to coach that team up, and they take on his personality. They're really tough. They crash the boards really hard. So it's going to be a great test for us to kind of see where we are physically as far as our toughness in the game. So I think if we can handle that physicality and play well on offense, I think we had a good chance to win the game.
In case if you're wondering if it gets any easier for the Wolves at the end of the week, it doesn't. You're going on the road, going over to Northwest Florida State. You're going to play the #1 team in the nation, the Northwest Florida State Raiders, team you played last year. Obviously, with it being a whole new roster, none of those guys were here last year, but you went toe-to-toe with them last year, lost a very close one. What are you expecting out of the Raiders, knowing, you're playing them a little bit different this year, a little bit further into the season? They've had some time to gel. Your guys have had some time to gel, but what are you expecting out of that bunch?
Well, first of all, I'm expecting to be pretty mad because they just got their first loss. So, they're going to be coming into the game really hungry. So it's good for us. These games, we're playing Tallahassee well, and these Florida teams, they kind of give us a gauge of where we are. And it's always a tough game, and we love those tough games because it gets us ready for conference play. So, we're going to go down and compete, man, and try to keep it close and hopefully have a chance to win the game at the end. So, I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. And, of course, we always love playing in the Panhandle Conference because it's really good teams.
So, again, Northwest Florida State on the road on December 8th. You'll be on the road against Tallahassee in that Northwest Florida Classic on December 9th, and that'll wrap everything up. Then you'll go on the break and come back, and you'll play a couple on the 11th and 13th of January, and then conference play will start soon after that. So, the real season, the things that really matter, not saying the other ones don't before that don't matter, but the ones that count, the ones that mean the most are quickly upon us. Coach, just – give us some of your thoughts. You're here at this point in the year. You're above 500. With a brand new roster, you only had 2 sophomores. All those things. Those guys are having to figure you out. You're having to figure out those guys, and it really seems like everything's really gelled really well, and you're kind of going in the right way heading into conference play.
Yeah, I think I'm surprised and pleasantly with how well my guys have done early as having so many freshmen and having some turnover on the roster. So, they're responding really well. They're competing. We got a few guys that's been a little banged up, but we've been able to get through that. And I think the schedule that we have played so far is going to lend itself well to the incoming conference schedule because it's going to be really tough. Those 2 games we got coming off the break. Both will be road games, and then we'll open up the conference play with a road game. So we'll have 3 in a row against conference opponents, even though the first 2 don't count as conference games. But at the same time, I love to play those conference teams early because it kind of gives us a gauge. Holmes is a team we're playing here. It is going to be a great test for us because we got to go to Holmes and play. So we'll have good film, be able to see kind of some things we need to fix and try to get those conference games because they're really tough to win.
All right. That'll wrap up this week's show. Coach, again, thanks for joining me. And as we've alluded, this will be the final Coach's show of the fall semester. Christmas break is coming fast upon us. Students will be out after the end of this week, so we won't have another show for you until we come back in the new year in 2024. We hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Just to wrap up the week ahead, Wolves and Lady Wolves final home game Monday, December 4th against the Bulldogs and Lady Bulldogs of Holmes. Then the Wolves will go on the road and play against Northwest Florida State and Tallahassee. And that'll wrap up our 2023 slate of athletic events. Again, we hope everyone has a great break. We'll see you in the new year. I'm Kevin Kaiser. Thanks for tuning in here for the Co-Lin Coaches Show.